Welcome to Your World Within Daily. I'm Eddie Pinero, and in this episode, we're going to talk about something I learned in college that stuck with me, and it's the idea that sometimes success is simply hanging on when others are letting go. So I pull from this story often, and those of you who listen to my YouTube channel might have even heard this. But here's a kind of a different take, a little bit of a different spin, because this idea, in a nutshell, has really helped the way I look at things, particularly when things are dire and stressful situations, when you want to stop. And sometimes when you forget why you started to begin with, right? You need to take a look and really examine the world that you're living in. And so as the story goes, so I was a freshman at Holy Cross and wanted to continue playing sports, right? I was a soccer guy in high school and wanted to continue doing something in college, and I ended up rowing, right, which is, or crew, as some people call it, which is a very physically demanding sport, something that, as a young athlete, I'd never, there's a difference, right? Soccer's, you have to be in shape, but it's more finesse. Where rowing is truly, it's you have to have technique, but it's grit, right? It's who can suffer the most and who can pull the most when they hurt. And that concept, by itself was something that we all had to step into, we all had to learn, and it really defined who we were. And I remember doing these pieces on the rowing machine. We call them pieces. It would be like 5 by 5 minutes, or 3 by 10, but whatever the workout was as freshmen. And it was this level of suffering where eventually you start rationalizing in your head, right? So at some point you get to a level you're like, okay, I'm going to start pulling less now, and you start making excuses for why it's okay. And our freshman coach, at one point, he said, sometimes success is simply hanging on when others are letting go, when it really hurts, and all you want to do is ease up. All you want to do is take your foot off the gas pedal because you can rationalize it. You're in enough emotional turmoil that you can make an excuse. You can create a story where it's okay. But the ones who ultimately cross that metaphorical finish line first, they are the ones that simply hang on. And it's funny, you look at, when you are 1,000 meters away and your body feels the way it does, it feels almost like the miraculous, to get there. It feels it feels like the biggest task in the world. But really, all it is not quitting for however many strokes, right? 50 strokes, 100 strokes, whatever it is, hanging in there, one at a time. And every time you don't stop, every time you don't lessen the intensity, that in itself is a superpower. That in itself is a win. Hanging on, continuing steady, moving forward, when the people to your left and the people to your right look at the situation and say, man, I can't, right? This is not for me. And, when you do cross that line, whatever it is for you. And I say that because rowing is very specific. And, funny enough, it's more important now in the real world than it was back then for me, right? That concept applies to every single thing you do in your life, particularly in adverse situations. You cross that finish line, you look back and you think, Well, there was never a point where I leapfrogged 50 meters. There's never a point where, I jumped over all these things and life changed in 1 second. No, it was just pulling. It was just not letting up again and again and again when you wanted to, and you could have rationalized it, when you could have bowed down to the situation and the circumstance, when the people to your left did and the people to your right did, you simply kept going. And so remember that. Remember that. Life's not always easy. It's not. But again, we always have a choice. And sometimes success is simply hanging on when others are letting go. Have an amazing morning, guys. If you get something from this podcast, I greatly appreciate you to rate, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. Helps me get this out to the world, and that's my goal. So thank you for that, and I'll catch you mañana.